God dag and velkommen alle sammen. Today we are looking at a few more spells from the Galdrabok. I've released quite a few videos about the history and the practice and just some little ways of thinking about magic, and now we're going to actually cover some more spells in this video, and taking it from the Galdrabok, the main grimoire of the Scandinavian and Norse people that was written in Iceland, and it's the best preserved book of Norse magic that we have. These today we're going to go over are a few spells about how to catch a thief. And there are quite a lot of these in this book, actually. For such a small book, I think there's only about 40-50 spells in here, and I think there's at least 4 of them that involve catching a thief. I'm going to read the 4 main ones here that deal directly with that. So this just shows us how important this would have been back in those days, either in pre-Christian times or Christian times, or in the 1600s, or even just a couple hundred years ago. We can still see evidence of people using these. You gotta understand, theft back in those days was looked at a lot more seriously than we do today. A person's belongings, a person's property was how they survived and made a living sometimes. It's not like today where we can get on a bus and say, oh, I lost my iPod, someone must have stole it, or oh, dang it, someone stole my car, I gotta call my insurance and get that fixed out, you know. Back in those days, that's not how it was. People could be put to death by stealing something. And it was very serious business if someone stole your cattle, or if someone stole some prized heirloom of your family, or someone stole anything. If someone stole just a little bit of meat or some vegetables from your pantry, that would have been a very serious thing, because it was just so much harder to survive back then, and couldn't afford to give away anything, and another person just stealing someone else's property back then would have had the death penalty a lot of the time. And that's not just true in the Norse world, but in the Germanic world and all over Europe in those times. So that's probably why there were so many of these spells. And the fact that there are so many of these spells just shows us how important it would have been to keep a hold of your property, and if something was stolen, find out who did it. So here's a few ways to catch a thief. This is number 33, spell number 33 in the Galdrabok. This one's to discover a thief. I'm going to read here. For theft, carve these staves on the bottom of a bowl made of ash wood, and put water in it, and grind millefolium in the water. And then say, this I ask by the herb's power and greatness of the stave, that the shade of the one who has stolen may be seen in the water. And carve these names on a whalebone with secret runes, and keep the bone on your person. Odin, Loki, Freyr, Balder, Njordur, Tyr, Birgir, Hanir, Freya, Gefun, Gusta, and all those who dwell in Valhöll and have dwelt there from the beginning of the world, and then give it to me so that this thing may be granted to me. This is pretty specific. You carve this magical stave here in the bottom of a bowl made out of ash wood, and then you grind up some millefolium. Now this is yarrow, and this was also yarrow has a long history of use, divinatory use, in the Indo-European peoples, of course, and all over Europe, but also in ancient Chinese. This herb yarrow has been associated with seeing the future, or seeing things that can't be seen. So as you guys know, I'd like to, after every spell, I like to kind of examine it and discover if it's pagan or not. Does it fully pagan, or does it have pagan influence, or is it fully Christian? Because a lot of these spells were written by Christian priests. So this spell, it's Norse, not Christian at all, and you can just see that by the gods that were mentioned in here. And of course, yeah, pretty much all the main gods were mentioned in here, so we can say that this pretty much has a pagan origin, but it doesn't necessarily have to be Norse, because like I said, yarrow and these things could be used everywhere for finding out things that are unknown. So this probably doesn't have just a Norse use, but probably has a long use of some form of this spell all throughout Europe and maybe even China. So I'd say this one definitely pagan, maybe with a little Christian influence by the time it was written down. On to the next one. This is number 35, spell number 35 in the Galdrabok, and it's another one to find out a thief, it says here. Carve this on a human leg bone, and someone will come to you and spit out who took from you. So this one, basic, simple. Yeah, you carve these symbols on human leg bone, and apparently someone is supposed to come tell you who stole what it is you're looking for. Pagan, yes or no? It looked like this could be a combination of some Christian runes and some pagan runes in there. Looks like you see a little bit of crosses, but no pagan runes stick out too much in there. There's a couple that there might be, but doesn't really stick out too much. But just the fact that this is carved on a human bone makes me think that it could be pagan. Of course, if you dug up someone in the grave and carved their bone, that would be a big no-no in Christianity, of course, at that time. That would be definitely frowned upon. So just that gets me to believe that this may be maybe in a pagan original spell, carving these things on bones, but no way to be sure. But I'd say if I had to guess that it has pagan origins, and then it was adapted to Christianity a bit later on by the time these books were written. So that's a pretty basic one. On to the next one. This is number 36. Number 36, spell in the Galdrabok. Carve this on shrub oak and lay it under the turf on top of a grave and let it lie there. Okay, so this one we can break down a little bit, and I took some of Stephen Flower's notes. As you know, this my favorite translation of the Galdrabok is by a guy named Stephen Flowers, because he breaks down in a lot of detail and gives some extra information here. So in this spell, oak is used to make contact with the realm of the dead. Now, this was not a spell of necromancy, but it wasn't supposed to bring the dead back to life out of their grave and have them talk to you. It wasn't supposed to disturb them at all. It was just acting, this piece of oak was acting as a door to the spirit world, to the realm of the dead. So that was probably believed that if you did this, the dead person would come out of their grave, their spirit would come out of the grave and maybe come to you in a dream and let you know who stole from you. This would be a good one to use if something was stolen and it was only a dead person who knew who did it. Say somebody stole something from you, and at the same time they killed your brother, and your brother knew who it was. So that's when this spell would probably be used to wake up the spirit of your brother, and he could give you some insight as to who did it. That would probably be what was believed here. So is this one pagan? Don't see any obvious runes in this one, but of course this one also goes against the Christian beliefs in heaven, like we see. Of course, if someone's in heaven, they wouldn't maybe be able to come back to you in the realm of the dead. The realm of the dead was a very pagan thing, and I'm going to make some more videos about that. The realm of the dead was a place you went to after you died, before you were reincarnated. So that's a very pagan thing as well. And we see a lot of this in Iceland, actually. When it comes to magic, lots of examples and stories about this, about priests or magicians kind of journeying into the spirit realm somehow. We see this in Iceland and not in a whole lot of other countries. So that just shows kind of how, even though Iceland was Christianized, and that even priests were writing these spells, but their pagan beliefs never truly died out. It is kind of what we can start to guess from something like this. So I suppose this one, if I had to guess, was maybe originally a pagan spell, but definitely assimilated to Christianity. And I think you even have a cross in this one as well. And just a pagan spell originally, but highly Christianized just to make it able to be published and allowed to be used at a time where pagan things were being burned and persecuted. Okay, we'll do the last one here. This is the final one for catching a thief against theft. Sorry, but this is number 40, by the way. Spell number 40 in the Galdrabok. To find out a thief against theft, take Frigg's herb and put it in water so that it might lie 3 nights altogether. Then go to it, and then you will see the one who has stolen from you. Okay, so pretty basic here too. You put Frey's herb, but we're not quite sure what those mean. It could have meant a lot of different things. Stephen Flowers thinks that it could be, I'm going to mess up the reading of this, but Orchis odoratissima, or that's one herb, or Satyrium albidium. They're just basic herbs. There's nothing super special about them, but they can be found in Iceland and lots of other places around the world. So just because this is Frey's herb doesn't mean that makes it pagan, because this could have meant a lot of different plants, and even today we still call plants something. There's still little nicknames for plants that people have with pagan origin like that. So just that it's called Frey's plant definitely doesn't mean that it has pagan origin. So this one is, I would say, 100% Christian, no signs of paganism there, and you even have a cross in the magical stave there. So that shows it pretty spell. And this is also one of the last spells in the book that has to deal with theft. This is one of the final spells written, so this was probably written 100 years or maybe even more after the start of the book. And like I said, we already went over 3 spells to catch a thief, and these all have big pagan influence, it looks like. So this one probably was made as a Christian alternative. And like I said, catching a thief would have been very, very valuable in this time, and this spell was probably made as a Christian alternative if you didn't like the 3 very heavy pagan influenced ones that we just went over. So that's about it for today. Give these a try out. If you're Christian, try the 4th one. If you're pagan, you can try the first 3, and let me know how it works. Not saying I believe in it, not saying you have to believe in it, but I really just look at these things, not because I believe in magic necessarily, but mostly because I want to find out what our ancestors believed in. I want to find out about their history and what their beliefs actually were, and this is why I study things like this. So that's about it for today. See you next time.